Okay, good morning to you all. My long-awaited parts for the Hunter have arrived from India. I ordered seat, windscreen, passenger backrest, and the supports and all that pretty much 2 days or 3 days before I got the bike. So it's been about 3 weeks in transit, but they finally made it here. So I'm going to crack that box open. Some other stuff has already arrived, and I've done a few little upgrades on the Hunter. I've done videos but haven't put them all out yet. The Royal Enfield mirrors were absolute garbage. They came in a few days ago and I tried fitting them. They came with these bar end adapters and the long arm to put them up there, but the aluminum was extremely soft, and as soon as I tried to tighten down the bolt, even just like barely even hand tight, it was just spinning through and it stripped the aluminum out. So that was a no-win there. So I just reused the bar end adapters and slapped some CRGs on the end. So they're tried and true. I know I like them, so they're going to stay on there. Not real happy about the bar end adapters, but they'll do for now. What else did I do? I did some Shorty levers that came in about a week ago. I like them. They're fantastic. They're light years better than the original flat, real wide levers that were on here that stuck out almost past the end of the hand grip. I got the short ones, and I'm thinking that maybe I should have gotten the standard length ones, which would have been about an inch longer. But they still work well for my hands. I'm able to get it with almost 3 fingers before I get on the bar right there, the little ball at the end of it. So, but 2 fingers, 3 fingers is fine. And then the brake lever, being as short as it is just fine, because the brakes on this bike are pretty good. I've been impressed. And the fact that these are adjustable, you can bring them in to where you want them, makes 2-finger braking just dead simple. So anyway, I was looking at options for the exhaust today, and I test fitted a Coffman Shorty that I had sitting in my inventory in the garage from a previous project, and it looks perfect on here. It really, really looks good. I'll throw in a couple pictures. But the problem is the head pipe diameter, or the exhaust pipe diameter on this, is different than all the Hondas, and that one that I had was made to fit a Honda. So this pipe diameter is a little bit smaller, so I'll need a thicker exhaust gasket, those graphite gaskets, or just a necked down pipe. So I took a bunch of pictures. I'm going to send those over to Coffman's and see if they've got any ideas, and maybe we'll have a prototype for the Hunter here real soon. Anyway, let's get this unboxed. Woo, it's hot, man. It is crazy, crazy hot out here today. Temperature is high 80s right now, and the humidity is like 86%. Oh, it's just a sweat fest out here. And they really tape these boxes up coming from overseas. Every one of them that I've received from India is totally covered in this packing tape, so they don't want these boxes to come apart. That's good. That's good. Hopefully everything made it intact, and I don't want to go too deep through the surface of that, because I know there's a seat in here, and that would be just a crying shame to cut a seat cover. Oopsie, that would be bad. Oh, speaking of cuts in my seat cover. Oh, yeah. That's a good little segue. Put the knife away so I don't cause a problem. There are 2 nicks in my seat cover that I noticed. You can see one right there. I don't know if it comes out on camera. It's a cut. That's definitely a razor blade cut. And there was another one right here. Right there. So there's a razor blade cut here and a razor blade cut here. So somebody was trying to get packing stuff off of this bike and managed to nick that seat in 2 places, and I didn't notice it until just the other day. So I'll save that seat. I'm still going to use that one, obviously, even though this one's probably going to be better that's in here. But I'll have to fix that with some vinyl repair so it doesn't spread and get worse. Okay, so here we are. Whoops, losing my stuff. Okay, packing. Empty packing. There's the seat right there on top. Good thing I didn't go deep with that knife, eh? These are going to be brackets of some flavor. I'm not sure what they fit. They are... yeah, don't know. I'll figure out what those go to. That might be the passenger backrest brackets right there. I think that's what that is. There's more in here. More pieces. Those are bolts. shipped loose, which is different. Okay, here's the windscreen. Oh, maybe no, those are the windscreen mounts, I'll bet you. And putting the windscreen on here is going to be interesting because I'll have to pull my headlight bucket again. But this little fly screen is not much. It's just going to break up wind on my torso. It is the genuine RE part. I don't know if that shows up on camera. Royal Enfield. All these are genuine RE parts from my understanding. So yeah, this is going to mount right here, and I've got to get through the headlight bucket or somewhere right in here is what secures those. So it's not going to do much for wind protection, as you can tell. It's going to be basically a belly button guard, but it should help break up the airflow across my torso a little bit, middle of my torso. So we'll see how that fits. So this is the Royal Enfield custom seat, and I'm anxious to see how this looks. It looked really good in the pictures, and the reason that I purchased this one from India is it was about half the price of buying it anywhere else. So waiting 3 weeks for it saved me half the money. I was seeing as high as like $180 for this seat here locally in the States, and I want to say this was only $70 US equivalent after the conversion, something like that. If I can get it out of all the bubble wrap. It's very sticky bubble wrap too. Okay, here we go. Oh yeah. Oh, that looks so good. The red stitching on there, I like it. And this is more sculpted. It's lower, more of a solo seat. Me likey a lot. Is there anything loose in there? I just felt something falling around. Yeah. Let's see what we got. And I moved my little seat latch thing, so I no longer have to pull that side cover. That was my first gripe about the bike when I picked it up. Okay, so this material, the center section here where you sit is like a suede texture. It's a different texture. That's cool. It's grippy. I like that, so you're not sliding around. It's not really sunken into the foam very much, so it's kind of a little bit of a trampoline right there, but that's not bad. Not bad. Looks like my bumpers are not lined up in here. They're all very loose, so let's align those. Looks like they're supposed to have some grease to hold them in place, or some glue. I would think glue would be better than grease, but that's very slippery. Okay, let's see what we got. So yes, it is genuine, you can tell. Custom seat assembly. Oh, I like it already. Am I on there? Am I on there? Oh, is he on there? Can he get it to fit? Yeah, I've got the front hook in. There it goes, yeah. I just had to push forward a bit more. Oh, that looks good. Oh, yeah, I like that. I'll have to do some before and after pictures. I'll set up a tripod and give you an A to B shot. That looks really good. I like that. I like it. Okay, cool. And then lastly, these should be, this is the backrest for the passenger. I'm probably not going to have the passenger backrest on the bike very long. I just wanted to test fit it and show everyone kind of what it looks like and if it's feasible or not. I might be able to convince my wife to go for a trip around the block with me, but she's not much of a motorcyclist. So yeah, the back of it says Royal Enfield. That's cool. It's very subtle. I'd seen some others that had like big white stitching, and yeah, that was ugly. So yeah, basic, but it looks like it's going to work. And then this should be the bracket assembly for that. Yes, that is passenger backrest mounts. So cool. All right, we'll get this out of the way, and I'll get to putting this stuff on. Okay, everybody, get started on this. I moved my work over here into the shade because, oh boy, is it hot. I noticed one little issue. I've already fixed it, but I noticed one issue. The seat was not latching in, so you got to be really deliberate about mashing it all the way forward and make sure you press down on it and give it a couple of tugs because it was popping up out of the latch in the back. But now it's in there securely, so I'm not going to worry about it. It's just something to note compared to the original seat. That one was taking a lot more effort to really get clicked into place. It would kind of suck to go down the road and hit a bump, have to stand up or something, and your seat goes flying off. stranger things have happened. Okay, so what I can tell you also is, if you've got a Hunter and you're considering doing the LED signals and the little fly screen, definitely do those at the same time, because you're going to have to get into this headlight bucket twice. Basically, this thing mounts, which one of these is which? This is going to be that side. You can see the bolt is going to go through the headlight bucket holder and also the turn signal bracket right here. So that means you got to pull all this apart to get the windscreen frame in there. You have to do the same thing to get the signals in there. So again, if you're going to do both of those, wait until you have both parts. I put this in, did the signals a week or so ago, and now I've got to get back in there again, which is just double work and kind of counterproductive. So I'm going to do it, obviously, but I could have saved myself some work if I had just waited to do these until I did the windscreen. So what I'm going to do is pre-assemble this a little bit. I'll leave the plastic kind of attached to it if I can. I want to get the brackets put together. I know there's different schools of thought on this. I haven't even read the instruction manuals from Royal Enfield. It's kind of immaterial. This is pretty easy stuff. I find it easier to go ahead and loosely assemble these things with the little squish grommets that they've got and the screws and all that stuff. Get it loosely assembled before you get it over to the bike, because what I found is when you're putting things together, especially when you've got headlight buckets to deal with, once you get it to this point where it's put together, well, then you've already got things tightened up, and that's too late, because what you need is to get all the bolts securely fastened before you put the headlight bucket back in there, because you can't access that bolt later. Once this is in there, you got to take it apart again. So it's generally better to go ahead and loose fit this stuff, and I go ahead and tighten down the mounts to the windscreen, and then right before I get ready to totally finish assembling everything, I loosen these up to where I've got a little bit of wiggle room. But you want to tighten those guys up fully before you put that bucket back together. Anyway, so it looks like we're replacing these Allens here with some little 10mm head bolts that are going to go in there. Okay, let's get to it. I should read the manual, but you know, what's the fun in that, man? Okay, so here is a set of spacers. These grommets are going to be windshield side of things. Okay. Other thing to mention, if I forget later in the process, when you're tightening up these bolts, you don't want to really crunch them. You need to leave a little bit of wiggle room for the windscreen as a buffer to absorb shock. If you really crank these things down, you'll either crack the plexi right away, or when you hit big bumps or something like that, you can end up with little stress fractures around these mounts. So you want them to be left a little bit flexible, not really loose, but you know, a little bit of wiggle room. You don't want to go cranking too hard on them. If these things don't like to go in, you can put a little bit of water on them, or like Windex or soapy water or something like that. Helps them slide through, but usually you can just squish them and force them in. These holes are pretty big. Some of them are real tight, and you got to work to get them through there. Just want to make sure that they're fully seated on the front and the back before you go putting bolts through them. That's it. Okay, so I would presume that these are forward facing, and the bolts go through to there. So let's do that first. 1, 2. Not looking forward to taking that headlight bucket apart again, because the wiring in there is so tight. I mean, it is just absolutely shoehorned in there, and getting everything back in to fit is not that much fun. Okay, so here we go. I haven't even edited my other video for putting in the signals and doing the headlight yet. I need to get that out. Oh, crank it. Oh, I'm trying to do this one-handed and hold the camera up with the other. So there are two screws that hold in the bottom of the headlight bucket. Little shoulder screws here. Just pardon me while I try to get the other one out one-handed. There we go. I had to loosen it up. Okay, so here's the second one. And when you loosen this up, take these two screws out, and there's just a little clip at the top that holds the headlight in the frame there, and that's it. It's real simple. Single connector here to pull this away, and then there's the little marker lamp wire, and just dig a fingernail in under there and pop it right loose. So, don't want you to go falling off, rolling off the table. You be good. You stay. Be good. Okay, so here's the bird's nest. You can't see it right now, but as soon as you pull this down, which you have to do in order to get back here to the rest of the stuff, all the wires are just mashed up in here, and it's got these two little pop clips. There's one here, and they don't like to stay. And then there are a couple of these little Phillips push fasteners in here. They're not really screws as much as they're little push tension clips. You can usually just pull them out with your fingernail. They're not very tight. Pardon me while I do this one-handed. So you just pull them out like that, and then this guy just wants to drop out, and all your wires come floating down in your face. There's a lot of them. So getting it back up in there is a little bit of a pain in the butt. So let me get my tools to pull the bucket assembly loose, and then I can pull my signals off, because you're going to have to route the turn signal wires through these little holes right here. That's what those are going to be for. These D-shaped holes, that's where your signal wires are going to go through. That's going to be the turn signal bolt. That's going to be the bucket bolt. So, yeah. Okay, so the bucket bolts here, you've got a 6mm and a 12mm. So 6mm hex on the outside and a 12mm nut on the inside. And just loosen those up, and you can pretty much unthread it with your fingers. So again, none of this is terribly difficult. It's just a little annoying that you've got to dismantle so much to get in there. And I was doing it in the dark the first time because I wanted to show the difference in the turn signals. Whoops, I lost a spacer or washer. I wanted to show the difference in the dark for the headlight and the signals, you know, the incandescent versus LED. And that made the task a whole lot more difficult. So now the bucket should be reasonably free to come out of there. Oh, I'm missing the adjuster screw at the bottom, sorry. There's a third screw. I know I was forgetting one. And it was a booger. It was really, really tight from the factory. That's your headlight aim screw, up, down. I don't know if you guys are going to be able to see it very well on camera, but there it is right there. And I halfway stripped the thing out trying to get it undone because they had it so tight from the factory. It's going to have a little locking washer on it, a split washer, and it's got to come completely out of there so you can get the bucket away. So it's got a split washer on that screw. All right, now the bucket will come out of there. You do have to pull the grommets from the sides, or there's not grommets, they are collars. The collars penetrate through the side of the bucket into the rubber dampers, and they've got to come out. So you push those collars out. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to get the bucket to move. See what I mean about the wires? Everything is so tight in here. It's not as bad as some of the old classic Hondas, I'll tell you that, but even the Yamahas for that matter. Okay, a collar and collar. And now the bucket comes out. Like I said, this isn't terribly difficult, it's just very annoying. You got to squeeze it in to get it past the protrusions. And then now, only now, can you get to these two bolts. So those two bolts have got to come off. I've got to unhook my turn signal wires because they're going to have to thread through the other brackets. And yeah, here comes the fun. So these two inner nuts here are going to be 12mm. And the turn signal is going to try to rotate when you do this, so I recommend hanging on to the housing of it, because if it rotates too far, you could potentially snap off the little wiring protrusion or shear your wire off. So just word of caution there. Hang on to it while you crank it loose, because I had the factory ones trying to do 360s when I was undoing them. It was that tight. Like I say, not difficult, just tedious. So figure out which one is which here. I feel you. I feel you. It's this red one. Which side? That side. Okay. So this one can come out now. So notice the brackets have little D-shaped holes, and you got to insert the the connector in there in the correct orientation. So the windshield bracket is going to have the same. Got to get everything lined up and figure out which side it sits on, if it's inside or outside. I might have to refer to the Royal Enfield instructions for that, but it looks like it's going to be outside. Yes, it's going to be outside. Now the question is, no, that's another thought. I need to check that. I definitely need to reference the manual for this to figure out if it's inside or outside, because these covers are not going to fit. It just seems like too much. So that goes there. Oh yeah, I'm lost. Okay, I'm going to look at the instruction manual. Okay, I was on the right track. Just needed to see the placement of the brackets. So this is freely available on the internet. You can download it directly from Royal Enfield, and I'll put a link in the video description below of where to find it, because they don't include any instructions at all with the kit itself. So basically the bracket, then you've got the longer bolt that's going through, and that spacer is going to be up on the front corner, which is the headlight bucket side of things. Okay, so on further inspection here, I'm losing all my pages. They're blowing around in the wind. They're showing that that's still in there on page 4. It shows how to route it through the little D-shaped thing there. And that bracket is going outside the plastic cover. So it's going to look a little funky, but all right, whatever you say. I'll go ahead and do that. So anyway, that collar that they're providing, this metal spacer here, is going to go inside before the bucket. So I'm wondering if these collars are replaced or if that's just standing off there like that. I don't know. We'll figure it out. So this is kind of what I was talking about with their manuals and their instructions not being real clear. The way they're showing this orientation is incorrect. If I'm reading all this correctly, they've got this backwards. That is this bracket here. They want the plastic spacer in there, or the plastic cover on there. The spacer is going to fit between this and this, not internally as they're showing there. Internally, it's going to be the longer bushing, or the longer collar, I should say, that goes into the rubber grommet into the headlight bucket. So I don't know if I'm just reading that wrong or if they have missed the boat, but the placement that they're showing on that collar is not correct. They're showing it protruding on the inside between the headlight bracket and the bucket. That can't be true if if all the widths and spacings are the same. It's just not going to work that way. We're going to find out in a second when I put it together. So anyway, routing all this through, the D-shaped connector goes through only in specific orientation, so you'll figure out that part of it when you get there. Okay, I just did a whole bunch of head scratching and swearing off camera, trying to figure out the silly instructions here. They're out of their gourd. I don't know what they're smoking, but the directions are not correct, unless I'm just totally reading them wrong, and you guys can leave comments in the down below in the video. But yeah, basically this is all butkus. They're saying in the previous section here, remove the grommets and this and that. They're saying to remove this grommet. This is a double flanged grommet. If you remove it, there's no flipping way you're ever getting that thing reseated back in there once the headlight bucket is in place with something on the other side of it. It's just not going to happen. Guarantee it. You'll spend the rest of your life, half of hell's eternity, trying to figure that one out. So sorry for the noise in the background. The only way to do this, here's the order of assembly. I went ahead and pulled the windscreen off of it just so I could maneuver things a little bit better. So skip that first portion where I was saying go ahead and pre-assemble it. That's usually true for most windscreens of this nature, but it did not work out in this case because I had to really wrangle this thing. So order of operations, I showed you the portion a minute ago where this goes through the bracket, the wire goes through the bracket, that sits on the outside. This is on the inside of that bracket, but still outside of the headlight bucket. So it goes signal, bracket, plastic cover, and then headlight bracket that's on the fork tubes. Now, the spacer that they're providing goes between here and the plastic piece. Those metal collars that I showed you a minute ago are inserted through here. So what I did to get all this together was you get those parts back there assembled loose to where you can fit the long collar through the headlight bracket and this plastic, leave a little bit of gap here, and then put the spacer in between there and just put the bolt in the side of it to keep it, you know, located straight and everything, and then go ahead and crank that signal bolt down. Okay, and that's going to tighten this side up. Be sure to hang on to this when you're tightening it so it doesn't try to spin free or anything weird. That'll get this to where it's ready for final assembly. The tricky bit is getting the headlight bucket back in there with no room to maneuver, and you can't pull those collars out after the fact because you've sandwiched in now. So you just have to go monkey on it and just deform this headlight bucket. You can see it's flexible once you got everything loose. You just mash it into an oval and you can fit those double-eared grommets. I don't know if that shows up well on camera, but you know, it's got a flange on this side and a flange on this side. So there's no way you could remove those from the bucket and then put them in after the fact. That ain't happening. That's impossible. So just do it this way and mash, you know, deform the bucket to where you can get it in over those collars and wiggle, 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 and you'll get the grommet over the collar, and then you can come in from the other side with the bolt, and that's it. That's how you do it. So I don't know what their instructions are smoking or who wrote that when they were smoking what, but it doesn't work. This is the way to do it. And then now the screen, everything's perfectly aligned. Notice the holes. I don't know if it's going to come out on camera, but holes line up here, holes line up there. We're good to go. So I'm going to finish reassembling all the wires and mashing all this stuff back up in there and put the headlight on this thing, and I'm going to go get lunch. I'm hungry. Okay, another little tidbit of advice when you're reassembling your headlight bucket and trying to mash all these wires up in there. First, obviously make sure that you've got your green to green and red to red for your indicators. Go ahead and power up the bike and turn it on. Make sure you've got good connection before you seal it up, otherwise you're getting back in here again. When you go to put this little retainer back up in there, getting all the wires in place is a bit tricky. You just kind of fiddle with it. But if you'll notice, I don't know if it comes out on camera very well, there's a little lip right here. And there's a tab on the top of this retainer that's got to fit up in there. There's a little notch right in the center where that fits and kind of holds the top to retain it. You got to keep pressure up here on that. You got to get all the wires back out of the way, and then get these lower holes right here to line up to shove these little, Phillips push pin retainer things back in there. So it's a little bit of a juggle. Just make sure that you get this top tab behind this little guide right here. Otherwise, things aren't going to line up, and you're not going to be able to get your headlight bucket back on because it needs to ride in that little spot there as well. So good luck. Okay, and there's the finished project. Got it all bolted up. The alignment on the brackets works very, very well, as long as you get the alignment of everything correct here as far as the order of the pieces and everything. I strongly recommend using that method that I did there at the end with how to deform the bucket and all that, because the instructions are just absolutely wrong on removing grommets and stuff like that. That's not going to work. They're talking about a different bike, different process apparently, because it does not work on this one. So anyway, let's peel this off here, and I didn't have to do any tweaking of alignment of the brackets or anything like that. All four of these lined up perfectly, And what I will tell you is when you crank these down, normally you have to be pretty careful about over squishing, but the little spacers that they've got here, these collars, they actually butt out against the rear bracket. So as you're tightening, you just keep going gently, and you'll feel it bottom out, and give it just another maybe 1/8 of a turn, 1/16 of a turn, something like that, just to add some tension to it. But the collar does butt out against the rear bracket, so you don't need to worry about over squishing, and there's still a little bit of flex in the windscreen for vibration and all that. So the one thing that I do notice here is the screen is butting up against the gauge cluster. It's butting up against the clock. So what I might need to do is muscle these brackets down a little bit. I can loosen this gently. I really don't want to pull my headlight apart again if I can avoid it, but there's a little bit of slack. I might be able to tilt the brackets forward a little bit to keep them from contacting the gauge, or the screen from contacting the gauge here. But other than that, it's a good kit. That's going to be a problem, so I'll have to loosen this up a bit and give it one more little try for tilting it downward. But otherwise, it goes together okay. Just tedious.